Greetings, everyone. I'm Jason Lewis, the producer of the From the Shadows podcast, and welcome to this week's episode of the Midweek Howl. As usual, we will be accompanied by your host, Shane Grove, and our very own resident skeptic of the crew, theozarkhowler. So without any further delay, why don't we just jump right in and get this show underway?
So the one conspiracy theory that Jason and I were discussing is the one about the Hollywood elite sucking the young juice out of the kids, sort of deal. You know, where the rumor is
for eternal life
to make themselves look youthful, and that it's this huge conspiracy that. No, I think we all agree that the child sex trade is a real thing all over the world, and it's not a funny thing. But when they take it to the level of that they're keeping these kids in underground tunnels of New York City so they can extract the essence that is produced from them when they're in fear, and then synthesize that into a drug that the famous people in Hollywood and the richest people in the world can shoot it into their system so they can stay youthful. I can't buy that. I can't buy that at all. I mean, what do you think about that?
That's almost as crazy as saying that these professional bike racers like Lance and them would transfuse their blood and swap it out for oxygen-rich blood just to win races.
They refer to it as blood doping.
Yeah. No, I don't. You know what? The only thing that you messed me up on was the tunnels under New York.
Yeah, that's what threw me.
If you've been to New York and in some of those tunnels underneath there, you wouldn't put anything in your body that came out of them. Okay, so I would like to think that if I was a recluse billionaire looking for eternal youth, I would at least put my kidnapped victims in a comfortable environment where I rob them of their youthful essence.
Well, I think that's part of the conspiracy theory, is that this youthful essence or I can't even remember all the
DNA or whatever. I don't know.
Well, it's all Jason and I came up with some really good terms to refer to this, like the giggle juice or something. I forget but I think the real thought is that the drug cartels are turning this into the new drug. So the cartels, they want a higher margin for their sales. Maybe they're keeping the kids that are just for they're going to sell to the more common people in the tunnels in New York, and Ellen and Oprah and whoever else is part of this Hollywood scheme. They're keeping their kids in a nicer digs.
I don't know, man. I quit. I used to get a lot of entertainment with the conspiracy people back when it was FEMA camps and Walmart was going to be turned into some kind of concentration camp.
Really?
You know what I'm talking about? Don't you remember all the FEMA camp deals? So I kind of shut them down then because, first of all, anybody that's been around the government long enough realizes that they're probably not competent enough to plan something long-term out. Okay? And second of all, the Walmarts themselves are a type of holding facility. It's almost like some of the people who go to Walmart are it's like they're voluntarily committing themselves to walking the aisles and looking at stuff that they don't want. Oh, look at them. Sometimes they just go. I do it sometimes too. If I need a little therapy, I pull in the wall. But pre-corona, now they got them. I don't know how they are. You guys are under lockdown, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here it's like semi-lockdown. Okay, so you can go to Walmart, but you got to walk in essentially a nylon cattle chute to get in one door, You can't not. Yeah, you know what I mean. They got it. One door blocked off. One door's in. One door's out. They have these blue-clad clerks standing there to make sure that you don't violate the one person per cart rule. You can't go in groups. And anyway.
See around here, you walk into Walmart and Meijer, and there's whole family shopping. We don't have any nylon cattle chutes. Maybe you guys are in more of a lockdown than we are.
Well, they're in mourning here because the last season of Ozark on Netflix, it ended this season. So they've got some emotional turmoil going on that they're not going to be famous after next year.
So they're not thinking straight. They're not thinking straight.
So they're not thinking straight anyway. So I think the corona's really, if you've seen how some people live, Corona ain't got a chance on some of these folks. You know what I'm saying? It just ain't.
Hey, on a side note, that Ozark show, I finally got to watch it. It's actually pretty good. And you saying it's going to end already? I think it's on
the third season.
Okay, all right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think this is supposed to be the final season. Isn't that what they were touting? Of course, it could be like, I remember when the Steel Wheels tour in 1989 or 90 was going to be the last of the Rolling Stones tour.
Yeah.
So they've had 30 years of farewell tours. So maybe.
Didn't they all perform together last night?
They did. I heard it was good too. I didn't get to see that part. I seen Lady Gaga singing.
They were all separate, and they were all on Zoom together.
The Chinese intelligence services website called Zoom?
I don't know, but wouldn't that be fantastic that the Chinese released this virus upon us so that we were all socially isolated, and then released this fantastic
app that could
that could bring us all together.
Well, you know what? I unlike our Western decision makers, I do believe the Eastern ones, they plan for 1,000 years. You know what I mean? They don't plan for the next 4 little 2-year congressional seat. I mean, those people over there are planning for the rest of their life. So I wouldn't put it past them. Wouldn't put it past them.
When they build a wall, they build a wall to last, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We can't even decide on a wall. They built one that's been, that's been standing for 1,000. They see space.
Yeah.
We can't even get one you can see from Walmart.
That's very true.
I mean, you tell me we ain't behind the curve.
Well, at one time,
hey, I'd every once in a while, not hardly anymore, but I used to. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I used to dabble reading the Bible some. And, there's no Amalekites and Hittites anymore. Them civilizations are just gone. Okay? Mm-hmm. And you wonder if over the course of a couple thousand years, are we going to be gone and something's going to displace us? And, they're going to call. We've all heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're going to be talking about who knows, the Staten Island Scrolls or something, where somebody finds some thumb drive that's got what America used to be or what a civilization used to be before.
Well, I hope they find. I hope what they find is the treasure trove of the National Enquirer and the Weekly World News. Now that would be fantastic reading for somebody, 100 years into the future, like Aliens Land, to be like, oh man, I wonder what happened to all these. We were so close to getting there and taking over the civilization. I wonder what happened. And then they see that, a lumberjack was Bigfoot's love slave, and then they kind of put 2 and 2 together and figure out that was the end of our civilization.
Well, I don't know. What was that movie where Battle L.A.? You know what I'm talking about? Where they were here already? Not here already. Which one were they already here? Was that World of the War of the Worlds, where they come, Tom Cruise, where they come out of the ground?
They were already there underneath the ground.
Maybe they're already here. Maybe they're already here, and one day they're just going to erupt, and then it's on.
Is it really going to be on? Do you think anybody's really prepared?
Now, these people can't even take on their elected officials when they want to go to the grocery store now, because, I don't know. No, there's going to be like all good things. There's going to be an insurgent group that might try to mount some kind of a defense. But the majority of the people, as long as you can keep the internet going and a few entertainment sources and maybe a minimal food source, they're going to give up. I mean, they're not even going to fight. So there's nothing to give up about. Right?
Yeah, probably. Probably. I mean,
I know, I hate to say this, I know folks don't come out of their house. They just sit around and game, or they won't realize civilization's collapsed. As long as they won't even know it.
There's some truth to that too. I mean, I know it's funny, but it's scary, but it's true.
Well,
yeah, I never got into that gaming. Once the Atari, I think the last video game I bought was Madden '93.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I didn't even know they had Madden in '93. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. I think it was Madden 91, 92, 93. So when I sold my Sega Genesis, probably in '94, that was the end of my gaming career.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very good. So, it was probably a good time for the career to end.
No, I don't. It's because you were playing realistic games. To be a good video gamer, I think you have to suspend your disbelief in what you know what I mean.
I did every time I put a quarter in the Zaxxon machine at the arcade, and I couldn't get. You ever play Remember Zaxxon? It looked like
I didn't have quarters. We were so poor we couldn't pay attention, much less go down there and dump quarters in a machine. I grew up on a gravel road, dude. So we couldn't even ride our freaking bikes 7, 8, 9 miles. It would have took us to get to a machine to put a quarter in, okay? Because our tires wouldn't last. So, no.
Listen, if I rode 7 or 8, 9 miles to get to a machine, I'd have still had to ride 4 more to get.
The only game type we would play every once in a while when I'd stay at a friend of mine's house. There was a dot down at the pool hall. That's what we called it, the pool hall. But it had a name. I don't want to say it here. It's changed hands. The gentleman that owned it when we were kids is dead. And it was an honest-to-God bar it was like an old Skelly gas station. So it had a rock front, with a couple pillars.
Oh, yeah.
A single gas pump. And one side was, when we were kids, leaded and unleaded. And then it got to be premium and regular, whatever it got to be. But you'd walk in there, and there was a couple pool tables in a bar, and some dead animals hanging above it. There was a sign, and I know I try to keep this PG, but there was a sign in the men's bathroom that said, "Be like Paul, not like sis. Lift the lid before you piss." Now, that's what kind of place it was. And there was a dime machine in the back. You were local, you'd go in there and quote, collect on it, and you'd get paid out. They had some Cherry Masters there too, but that was more like gambling. And, with little signs that say for amusement only, blah, 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 blah. That's for the out-of-towners. That's for the out-of-towners, because if they knew who you are. But now they got riverboat casinos and all this crap. But back in the old days, you had to be on the sly at a young age to learn how to gamble. So we skipped the xenophobe and went straight to the collecting.
You had to be a local boy, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I did have a request.
Kind of request.
Well, somebody messaged me.
Yeah.
And they really wanted to know from the last episode we did, or maybe it was 2 episodes, what happened to the van load of Mexican Americans or hopeful Mexican Americans that were in the back of that van that you and your undercover buddy climbed into?
Well, they drove off into the sunrise, and they've become what is now known as dreamers. They're probably on a roof somewhere, and their kids are graduating high school by now. They were swallowed up in the melting pot of America to be success or failure at their own hand.
I think this person was worried that there was something
dimed them out.
That maybe something more nefarious might have happened, and you had been involved in it, and you just couldn't tell.
Now, you know what? Hey, back in them days, I don't even know how to even say this funny wise or other. We used to stop them out on the interstate, and we were so far in the heartland that there was no. There wasn't even a Homeland Security. You know what I mean? It wasn't even formed. So there was some border patrol down on the southern border. I guess a minimum posts up on the Canadian border. You're right here in the Midwest. So you know what they would tell us to do? They would say, and you'd pull over a truckload of them, maybe 40 or 50 of them. They'd say, picture them and fingerprint them and let them go. That's what they would say, because they weren't going to drive all the way up here in the middle of the country to mess with 30 or 40 of them. So you know what my boss would tell us to do? You'd open that truck door and you'd see a bunch of them. He'd say, hey, hurry up and close that door before somebody sees them. Tell them, go on. Be careful.
Jeez. and now all of a sudden
Otherwise, you had 10 or 15, 20 hours worth of work, and you were letting them go anyway.
And now we got our hair on fire trying to keep people most of them just want to come work.
I don't even, you're going to get me down on a damn rabbit hole, and I don't know what your audience base is, but we have these folks that sneak over from the southern border, most of which are Christian. I mean, they're Catholic, but it's still Christianity, and they're Christian. All they want to do is work and be left alone for the most part. And then we have some from other parts of the world that want to kill us or convert us or kill us. Okay. And for whatever reason, we set up whole programs to bring those ones from the other side of the world in here that want to kill us. And the ones that want to stand on a roof and work 20 hours a day, they beat them people back with a stick. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know. Well, this whole world's twisted around, but I guess that's what we're in. You know what I mean?
I know. I got you. I believe there's a lot of truth to that. I don't understand, but it's just a political. How do you know what I blame it on? Entertainment. Because we've got all these. No, really, we've got all these. They have entertained. How would you say it? Entertainedized? They have turned political topics into entertainment.
Yes.
So, so if you can get a good enough following, you could monetize your political views. Maybe that's what I said. You monetize your political views, and now there's no, it's like Sunday. It's like foot. What they call it. What do they call it? They call politics show business for the ugly. You know what I mean? I call it sports for the unathletic. Okay,
that's right.
Because it's got nothing to do with right or wrong. It's got to do with whose team you're on. And it's like I was listening to a podcast one day, and one of these great guitarists from the 70s, and he said something, and it might have been, and I don't think it was Glenn Campbell, because by the time the podcast came around, he didn't even know where he's at. But anyway, the host asked this great guitarist. He said something to the effect of, "I didn't know you played with him." And he said, and he was a rock guitarist, famous in a rock band, but he had started out in a country band or vice versa. And I don't remember. And he said, you played for who could pay you. You know what I mean? You played for who you could pay. You know what I mean? And you could either go sing in a factory or play country music. And this guy said, I'd play country music every day instead of sitting in a factory. So politics is the same way. You take a lot of these kids when they get out of school and they get a job, the old adage, you got to ride for the brand. Whoever gives them the job is what team they end up on. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
And as 10 or 20 or 15 years passes, they they might see the good and the bad or whatever, but they can't switch teams because they got to ride for the brand, man. That's where they're getting paid. So I feel bad for them.
So before we end this topic and move on to the next, I want a clarification. Since we're in entertainment, that means we're not the ugly people, or because or is the brand of entertainment we're in specifically for the ugly people that don't want to get into politics?
Well, I was going to say I can't say unathletic because you did play Division I ball, but I would say, are we even in entertainment? Do we entertain anybody other than ourselves?
Well, I think we entertain some
I have
people.
been on the screen as you have.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been on the screen with some A-listers, and I think that was what I was going to the story I was going to tell. Is this the segue to switch topics?
Well, you know what? Maybe this will be the end of this episode. In the next episode, we'll get into the movie behind the scenes.
Because the only person I know that gets entertained out of talking to you guys is me. So I don't know exactly the audience or not. And my kids making fun of me. That's who gets into most entertainment.
Well, on that note, we'll see who tunes in, who's entertained enough by us that they tune in for the next episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, a final word. Please visit us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/From the Shadows Podcast, and on our Instagram page at instagram.com/From the Shadows Podcast. You can visit our webpage at FromTheShadowsPodcast.GoDaddySites.com, or contribute to our Facebook discussion page called After the Shadows, and tweet us on our Twitter feed at twitter.com/podcast_from. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you all. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.